Okay, please take it away, Professor Turner.
Okay, welcome everybody, and thank you all for coming. And especially a big thanks to the 5 alumni who volunteered to spend their part of their afternoon or morning, depending on where they are in the world, with us. We've been doing this for a few years now, and one of the things that we discovered during the pandemic when everything was on Zoom was that when we did this alumni event on Zoom instead of in person, we could have people who had a much wider variety of experiences because people could come to this event who are our alumni who are in various parts of the world. So we've been continuing to do that, and I welcome all of you to meet our really wonderful alumni. I'm going to, so the structure today is that we have a few questions we're going to have go around the room, so to speak, with the alumni. If you have questions, you can put them in the chat, and I know some of you have sent us questions already, and we'll get to that in the Q&A period after we do the panel discussion. So without further ado, I'm going to go around through the 5 folks and have them do a self-introduction, and then we'll start with some topics that we'd like them to comment about. Annabelle, let me start with you.
Hi everyone, I'm Annabelle. I graduated UCSD in 2022 with a double major in linguistics and Japanese studies and a minor in psychology. After graduating, I went to Japan, specifically Hokkaido on the JET program, and I was there for 3 years teaching English at elementary schools. And I just came back last summer, and now I'm doing grad school at the Middlebury Institute of International Studies in Monterey. So right now I'm currently in Monterey, and I'm studying translation and localization management with a specialization in Japanese translation.
Hmm. Thank you, Annabelle. This actually sounds really interesting. Shara, you're next.
Hello, everyone. I'm Shara. I graduated in 2024. I majored in international studies, international business, and then I also minored in Japanese studies and global health. After graduating UC San Diego, I worked as a financial aid representative at UC San Diego, and then I currently work at University of San Diego as a financial aid advisor, specifically serving special populations such as our military and veteran students. So I am calling from San Diego. Nice to meet you all.
Thank you, Shara. Darian?
Hi, my name is Darian Jarrell Soriano, and I'm calling from Tokyo. And I graduated class of 2018 with a major in Japanese studies. I've been living in Japan now for about 7.5 years. My first 6 years, I worked as an English teacher at various companies, and now currently work for a luxury Japan trip travel agency called Into Japan Specialist Tours as a tour consultant, creating itineraries and unforgettable memories for clients, as well as also being a video game convention interpreter, as well as video game localizer and translator. Thank you for having me.
Okay, many hats to be worn there. John, you're next.
Yeah, that's a tough one to follow up. That's really impressive. Hi everyone, my name's John, and I am a UCSD alumni from 2021. My major was communication, and I did my minor in Japanese studies. I currently work for UC San Diego. I'm one of our academic advisors here at Warren College. So I'm calling in from San Diego here.
Nice. We need really good advisors on campus, so thank you for doing that work. And please don't let them replace you with AI. Shivang, you're next.
Hello there, everyone. My name is Shavong. I graduated from UCSD in the year of 2023 with a major in marine biology and a minor in Japanese studies. I was working at Scripps Institution of Oceanography for a year as a bioinformatics specialist. And then I moved to Salk Institute for Biological Studies as a lab technician for their greenhouse division. And then I wanted to pursue marine science in Japan. So I sent a bunch of grad apps until I landed in Hawaii, where I'm currently doing my master's in marine science. And right now I'm calling from Phoenix because I'm attending a conference.
Thank you, Shivang. So this is a really diverse group of pathways post UCSD. So I hope those of you who are attending find some models for how you might move forward after UCSD as well. And in the past, some of the alumni perspective have really influenced the folks who listen to their senpai talk about how things went after they moved away from UCSD. So I'm very pleased to hear all these different experiences. So we'll go sort of in the same order. The first question we want to ask people is why they chose, just getting started with your time here at UCSD, why did you choose a Japanese studies coursework during your undergraduate years? Annabelle?
Yeah, so I originally applied into UCSD as a Japanese studies major, and then I thought about it because I really like Japanese pop culture and media, and I was already planning on taking Japanese language courses in undergrad. Um, then I thought about it a little bit. I wasn't sure if I wanted to study politics. I'm not a huge politics person. So then I decided, okay, I really like language. So then I started majoring in linguistics instead. I took a bunch of the Japanese language courses, and the linguistics major does not have a lot of required courses. So I thought about, oh, maybe I'll just add on a Japanese minor to my UCSD coursework. And then I did the math, and I figured out, oh, the minor is not that much more different than the major. So in my last year of UCSD, I switched that to a double major.
Great, thank you. Shara?
Hello. So I chose Japanese because in high school I grew an interest about learning more about other languages, especially after learning that the languages we speak shape how we perceive and understand the world. So I kind of wanted to understand that and explore that idea through other languages, especially one that doesn't use like the regular Latin alphabet. So Japanese especially uses like three different writing systems. So I wanted to explore that. And I did study French in high school, and what I learned from that is that it's easier and much more enjoyable to learn a new language when you have exposure to or consume the media for the language outside of class. So my hobbies also included Japanese pop culture and media, largely an influence of my mom who loved Sailor Moon growing up. So I wanted to kind of learn a new language that I would also enjoy learning outside of the classroom.
Great. Darian?
Yeah, so growing up, I had an interest in Japanese culture, anime, manga, and video games. So that sort of started as a base for my interest in studying and learning about Japanese culture. And eventually in high school, I started using textbooks for self-study on the language itself. And when I came to UCSD, at first I had Japanese studies as a minor, eventually becoming a major once I realized it aligned more with my aspirations for the future of living in Japan, learning even more about the people, the culture, and history, really being immersed. And I think so far, 7.5 years of living in Japan, I think I'm living that aspiration.
John?
Yeah, so I had a similar experience to the rest of the folks. I grew up really interested in Japanese pop culture since childhood. And as I became college age, I eventually thought, well, why don't I learn more about this culture and this language and where all of that came from? So I began studying Japanese language in my own time through textbooks and audio CDs and things like that. And I was in community college at the time, so I started doing Japanese studies classes in community college because I got really into the language. Um, I became aware that UC San Diego had a major in Japanese studies, and so I applied to the program and got into UCSD with that. I changed my major to communication though, because it aligned more with my counseling aspirations. But I kept the minor because I wanted to keep pursuing my interest in Japanese studies, and yeah, it was a great time to balance both of them.
Mhm. Siobhan?
Uh, in high school, I consumed an absurd amount of anime as a kid, just a bunch of shoujo, shonen, and I was familiar with like the basic phrases. And when I came into college, I wanted to, I guess, explore upon that, where I was just like, I know the basic stuff. Maybe I could actually broaden my scope of the language. So then I started taking Japanese 10A. And then from Japanese 10A, I got introduced to the Japanese Student Association. If you guys haven't checked them out, you should. I'm just plugging them in. Um, but after attending their events over the course of my 4 years, I got a lot more, like, as brought into the pop culture, the history, and so I started taking classes that reflected that, like the history courses, the film courses, etc. And then before I knew it, I realized I already covered the requirements of a minor.
Is very interesting, these pathways. And many of them seem to be stemming from Japanese pop culture. Okay, so the next question we thought we'd ask you all to reflect on are your highlights while you were here of your Japanese studies major or minor. We'll go in the same order. Annabelle?
Yes, I like how in a lot of the language classes, the final projects, um, well, they were harder because they were final projects, but there were a lot of free topics that you can choose. There was also a lot of group work, and the class sizes were quite small, so you got to know a lot of your peers really well. Um, and just exploring topics that are in a language that you're probably interested in was really cool, and getting to expand my vocabulary and just get to know everyone. Um, I did want to study abroad, but unfortunately, the year I wanted to study abroad was when COVID happened.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Shara?
Yeah, I would agree that I would also say that the connections you create in the language courses would be a highlight, especially because you don't really interact with other people as much in other courses where you just sit and listen to the lectures. But in the Japanese language classes, you talk to other people, you share hobbies, you talk to the professors more. A lot of my long-term friends until now are those that I made in Japanese language classes. So I'd say that making connections in those classes was a highlight. Another one was I happened to thankfully COVID was over by the time I went to go study abroad. So that I would definitely say that's a highlight for sure. But just being able to immerse the language and the society was really refreshing and new. I participated in this volunteer partnership program between the international students at the university I was studying abroad at, which was International Christian University or ICU. And it was in partnership with a local community. So it's called Gloko Mitaka. We did a lot of activities like we planted plants in the university garden. We read books with the Japanese children and their families. We went on a field trip with them to the Ghibli Museum. We did karaoke together with the volunteers and ate at an izakaya. So that was really fun. I also think that being able to study abroad gives you this unique opportunity to experience things you wouldn't as a tourist. So it might not seem exciting, but going to City Hall and getting your paperwork process and seeing like all the people work in the back in the offices waiting in line. I was really glad I could keep my residency card as a little souvenir. So I would say that being able to study abroad in Japan and take the learning that I had in my classes with me was definitely a highlight. And I think another one is that I did the UCSD and ICU Language Buddies program. And so I made a friend through that program, and I actually got to meet her at ICU and we took a class together, and then we got to explore Japan together for a couple of days. So if that program ever comes up again, I do suggest that students apply for it because, you know, even if you don't get to go to Japan, you make another friend in another part of the world.
Nice. Darian.
Yeah, so for me, I really love learning languages. And so Japanese was one of the languages that I really wanted to learn coming to UCSD. And I'd say I took all the way up until the 140 series. And every every year, just learning Japanese helped to build confidence in me and helped give me the base I needed to eventually move and live in Japan. And during my time as a Japanese studies major, along the way, making Japanese friends who studied abroad at UCSD so that I could practice my Japanese, learn even more about the culture and history and diverseness of Japan uh, was one of the biggest highlights. Another one, of course, joining JSA and getting to take part in a lot of the events and having uh, firsthand experience about Japanese culture, uh, being outside of Japan. And I'd say one of my other highlights from being a Japanese studies major was one of the courses such as Japanese for business purposes, where you get to work throughout the entire year planning a community service project where you get to actually interact and start making a project from scratch uh, to help benefit the local Japanese community in San Diego. And lastly, one of my favorite classes was Spirit of Anime, uh, which I took in spring of 2018, where it delves into the religious symbols that are in of Shintoism, Buddhism, and Christianity in Japanese anime and films such as Evangelion, Totoro, Princess Mononoke, and I think it's a nice almost full circle where my interest in Japanese started with anime, manga, and finishing graduating as a Japanese studies major with my final class being about anime.
Mhm. John.
Yeah, to piggyback onto what Darian said, like a lot of the topics that you learn in these Japanese classes are really fascinating. And outside of even the ones that are just in Japanese language, like one that I really found interesting was one about well, there's two. There was like history of Japanese ghosts and a class about comics, like the study of comics. And there was this book we read, a comic itself, but this book was literally about the study of how a comic can be used as like an actual educational form of helping somebody learn about something and really seeing like art and comics as a viable way to like deliver knowledge and information to somebody that's alternative to like the traditional education method of like testing and proctor exams and things like that, because those forms of education don't always work for everybody, and there might be alternative forms of education that could be better for people. Things like that really kind of helped open my eyes more to ways of thinking that I hadn't had before. um, but also another really important thing to me for the Japanese studies classes was learning the language itself. Like I said before, I got really into the study of Japanese. Living in San Diego, it's kind of hard to find opportunities to like use your Japanese, to speak to other people in Japanese, to hear it, try to practice your listening comprehension skills. And the Japanese studies department, Japanese classes gave me that so much. There's so much Japanese being spoken in those courses. You get to do lots and lots of communication with your professors and fellow classmates in the actual language, not only through the lectures, but also in the discussion sections too. The discussion sections might be like all in Japanese, or at least as much as possible at your learning level at that time. So it really creates this great environment to help you further your Japanese through using it, which is really the best way to be able to do that.
Thank you. Siobhan?
From the program, I like the, or at least from the for the language side of things, I like to think I'm a very slow learner. It's not very easy for me to pick up languages, but the consistency with which the language is taught, where it's kind of a, as you progress to the higher, um, like from 10 series to 20 series, the usage of English kind of gets wiped from the classroom. And so, although it was hard to cope with that, I think that environment is very helpful for me because if I'm just surrounded by Japanese, it kind of forces my brain to kind of cope and then adjust accordingly, which helped me with my comprehension a lot. Um, as well as the classes would led me to JSA in the first place, which was probably one of my, I think, biggest turning points, especially in times of COVID. Definitely opened up my social circles as well as my opportunities for working. And I have a lot of great friends who either live in Japan or who have family in Japan that I visit whenever I can. On the non-language side of things, I think just like the variety of culture that can be learned. So like I'm a self-proclaimed history buff, and I say that because I literally forgotten every history fact just now. But I like taking the history classes because they were very in-depth and they are just very fascinated by it. And I think my favorite class was like the LTA 138, which is the Japanese film class. Um, Very fun, very engaging because we got a chance to choose our own movie and I'd write a paper on that. Um, and on top of that, the networking, as I got to meet many of our great senseis, especially Kamioka sensei, who helped me with my endeavors with graduate school as well. So, all in all, a lot of good things came out from interacting with my minor.
It's so clear to me that any opportunity we have to acknowledge the work of the Japanese language faculty is a pleasure for me because it's really a remarkable group of people who work so closely together with students and colleagues. It's just excellent. So thank you, all of you who are here today. Um, our next question is the opposite of the last one, which was highlights. Now we'd like to know your biggest challenges and how you overcame them. Annabelle.
Yeah, so this probably isn't as relevant to you now, but I think a good third of my undergrad experience was on Zoom, including Japanese classes. And I know probably all the senseis hated Zoom classes. It's not good for language learning. Um, but it definitely took a big part of the language learning aspect, which is a big chunk of the Japanese studies, both major and minor, and just Japanese in general. Um, there's definitely like a huge disadvantage to doing that on Zoom, and you don't feel as connected to your peers. So while I did see the same faces over and over again on my screen, when I did eventually see them when we went back in person, it felt a little awkward. The report wasn't exactly there. Um, so I think that was definitely a challenge for me. But I think in a lot of the group projects or mini partnerships, presentations and such that we had later on, I did develop some close relationships with a few of my classmates, which was good. So they were pretty good go-to people for when I needed someone to work with because there's always going to be group projects and presentations. And you can't do everything by yourself in this world. I guess another thing is that your Japanese language education doesn't just stop in the classroom in class. You can't um, log off of Zoom. You can't leave the classroom, finish your homework, and forget about Japanese because everything that they teach you in class, they're all really great. The topics, the material, the vocabulary, the grammar, they're all important, but that's not the whole language. The things, the content that the senses teach you is not going to fully prepare you for the JLPT. It's not going to prepare you for life in Japan. This is not any complaints against my senses, but learning about SDGs in class does not teach you to do your taxes in Japan. Because I'm sure many of you are thinking about going to Japan to at least temporarily, maybe like Darian, going to live for long term. But just be aware that doing a lot of self-study and self-practice and having the self-motivation to do that outside of schoolwork is pretty important.
Thank you. Shara.
I'd say that one of the biggest challenges was just having the confidence to practice speaking Japanese, especially as an introvert. I overthink things and I'm always I'm creating scripts in my head when I'm practicing with other people. And when the other person doesn't follow the script, I break down. I don't know what to say next. But I've come to learn that even when you make mistakes, the effort that you're putting in carries you, and others will respond to that effort kindly. So when I interacted with Japanese children and their parents, even though I spoke slower, but I was putting in the effort to try and convey my thoughts and listening to them and being able to respond. And, they responded to that in kind. And so it was much more meaningful and it left better impressions on me. And it helped me become a little bit more confident in speaking and practicing Japanese. So it's just and it also helped to practice with friends, of course, outside of class, or sometimes talking and thinking to yourself in Japanese just kind of helps you make it a little bit more fluid. And so that when you actually have to speak Japanese to someone, you've kind of trained yourself towards that. I'd also agree with Annabelle in terms of being consistent with Japanese practice outside of class and beyond your homework. And I'd say that overcoming that for me was, again, having a hobby that was related to Japanese so that it becomes less like a tedious practice or another assignment, but more something enjoyable.
Darian.
Yeah, so piggybacking off of Shara, similarly, understanding Japanese, understanding spoken Japanese, and responding in Japanese was also an initial challenge for me as a Japanese studies major, where you learn in the beginning the simple building blocks of constructing basic sentences, but eventually you find out that that's just the tip of the iceberg. The textbooks are just the tip, and you need to, beneath the surface, you have different levels such as Hegel or Tameguchi, depending on the degree of politeness in which you speak about yourself to others, and very much a read between the lines and sort of culture that comes with learning the Japanese language. So, in order for me to overcome that, partly was with speaking as much as possible during those Japanese classes, during the discussion classes, the JSA language tables, making Japanese friends, as awkward or uncomfortable as I felt in the beginning when I know I was making mistakes, but the nice thing about language is that you don't need to be 100% perfect in order for the other person to understand you. As long as what you're saying is coming across, that's the most important thing. And then along the way, your friends or senseis will correct you and make it easier for you to convey your thoughts, feelings, and uh, anything that you want to convey in Japanese. And I'm still learning how to navigate the waters, of course, while living in Japan. Such as Annabelle said earlier, you don't just stop thinking about Japanese or learning Japanese when the classroom finishes, when the class finishes. You still take that with you. I think in my case, being in Japan, definitely immersion uh, is a big part of it. So I definitely need Japanese to survive here. But the main point is definitely the consistency of learning the language, finding ways, whether it be making friends in Japan or making Japanese friends, consuming as much media as possible, and just practicing until you feel a lot more comfortable is a very important thing that I had to do to overcome being able to understand and speak Japanese at a JLPT N2 level.
John.
Yeah, I felt like one of like the biggest challenges is kind of what you were just saying at the beginning with where you just talked, Ariane, was how additional layers just keep getting added on to like Japanese as you're studying it. Um, like I would say for everybody, like don't get bothered and or like bogged down if there's always like feeling like there's something else that you have to learn. Because I felt like when I was learning Japanese, I'd learn something, right? Like I'd learn a new set of grammar, a new vocab, and I was like, all right, cool. Like I'm good. I feel like confident with this. I'd get it down, I'd start using it, but then in the next chapter, there'd be like an additional level of grammar with what I just learned, or there was like a new way to use that particular grammar, especially if I'd go like out in the community, if I'd go to like a local Japanese market and I'd talk to the gift store employee there that I like talking to, and he'd be like, "Oh, you learned that. Well, did you also know you should use it in like these three different ways?" And I was like, "Come on, man, I just learned that. Like I thought it was good now." I had a lot of moments of feeling that way. And I really realized that Japanese is a language that it builds onto itself a lot. Like it's like you're always building onto what you learned essentially. And sometimes it might kind of feel like you're like stuck running in place and not really getting anywhere. But I really say just accept that and acknowledge that that's going to happen. But like everyone kept saying,
John, I think you're muted.
have I been muted the whole time?
Just the second half.
Oh, okay. Thank you. That was weird. I don't know why that happened. Okay, well, I was gonna wrap up by saying there's a phrase that says that like it's easy to not look back at the mountains that you've climbed because we're so focused on like the mountains that we still have yet to climb. And I think like that can happen a lot with Japanese. We're always thinking, oh my gosh, I'm not getting anywhere. I'm having to learn so much new stuff. But even to get to the point where you can speak and understand Japanese is impressive. Like someone said earlier, there's three different alphabets you have to learn. Just learning the alphabet to be able to read is really impressive. So as you keep learning, like make sure to look back and like celebrate what you've learned and like be proud of yourself for that because just like even getting as far as you've come in Japanese is an accomplishment itself.
Uh, Sorry. Um, for me, I think my biggest issues was when COVID struck, because I was in the middle of the 10 series when this happened. Um, and so it was unfortunate, like for interactive projects like the Japanese itinerary for like a hypothetical trip or the bento project. I never got to really do it in person. Instead, I got to draw my bento box, which it was nice to a degree. Um, but on top of that, yes, in terms of like everyone has been saying, um, the language part, probably the fact that it builds on itself makes it at the same time very like a expressive and like creative journey, but at the same time can be very daunting because I like to think as a perfectionist, and so the idea that I could say a sentence like I had it all in my mind, but I was missing one word, one vocab to then that would complete it and like give my message to the other person, like that would make me like annoyed and like I kind of had a hard time grasping it. Um, Even then, it was as someone who is of Indian heritage and also learned Hindi at a younger age, the idea of just like trying to take up a whole new language and like kind of had an imposter syndrome about them. Like, am I equipped to do this? I'm kind of struggling in my own native tongue. How's this going to work out? And I think this is kind of an unconventional method of overcoming it, but my way of overcoming it was jokes and memes, in the sense that I would take one phrase and I would turn it into a joke no matter what. I think before in the 20 series, when they teach you about trying something. So like mitai, te mitai. Uh, and so my friend taught me this like maybe a quarter early. And so wherever I go, I would go, tabete mitai, yonde mitai, asonde mitai. Like I would like in the most unreasonable scenarios, I'd be making jokes using like the grammar. And although it's not very conventional, but I guess it made me more comfortable in the vocabulary as well as my pronunciation. And I guess it made it easier for me to reach the words from my head when I need to actually communicate to others. And so in my understanding, like language is a very flexible thing, especially when in this current generation, like there's so many slangs, there's so many short forms. Obviously, you can't track them all, but they're all like personal, I guess, interpretations or like personal expressions of the same language. And that eventually, if you display it correctly, people will be able to understand. And so if you just at least keep expressing yourself in Japanese over and over again, whichever form is your preference, I think you'll become a lot more comfortable with receiving and also outputting Japanese.
Thank you. We want to switch now for the panel discussion part to a couple of questions to take us out of the program per se and into what happens afterwards. So the first one we thought we'd ask you to talk about is how the Japanese studies experience helped you achieve any professional or personal goals. Annabelle?
I think the most obvious one is studying Japanese helped me a lot when I moved to Japan. Because I will say it as we say in the JET program, every situation is different. But for me, 100 well, I guess 99% of the time I was talking in Japanese at work, and then that 1% was teaching English in class. So my coworkers saw, or I guess heard, that I spoke Japanese. They were like, wow, Annabelle's so good. We don't have to even speak English with her. So I guess UCSD really prepared me well for that environment. And I think something else that I kind of touched on earlier, but something you don't usually think about is compared to other classes, the classes in the Japanese department are quite small, or at least the language classes are. And as a linguistics major, my classes were small, but the Japanese studies classes were even smaller. So I had a much better connection with my professors and senseis in this in this department. And so when it came down to asking for recommendation letters, I asked professors that were my Japanese studies professors, and they were really able to personalize them for me. And I remember especially that I asked Inada Sensei for my JET program. For one of the recommendation letters. And then in the interview, they decided to bring up a detail that she wrote about, which she remembered because I had spoken about it in my personal life in one of the final presentations in one of the classes I did. And I was like, wow, I was really touched that she remembered that one specific detail, put it in the recommendation letter, and it made it into the interview. So that I was really touched by. And just as someone who's just used Japanese like almost every day up until from UCSD and even now and going forward in my professional career, I would like to use it. It's just always in my head. I like engaging with Japanese as a hobby too. So I don't think it's ever going to go away for me personally. But just besides the whole you're learning Japanese aspect, you're learning about interacting with other cultures, really get to know your professors while you're in undergrad, and I think that will take you pretty far.
Thank you. Shara?
So I definitely agree with that. Being able to create that network of people who definitely support you, professors and even friends from the class have are it's really life-changing to have those connections, even past graduation. Even if you're just connecting with them about life, just having that support circle definitely carries you through like even your hardest times. Personally, I'd say for sure I got to explore my initial curiosity about how languages shape our perception of the world. And I'm still doing that until now, right? Keeping up with the language when I can, and still exploring that concept. Professionally, I'd say it helped me find direction in the field I wanted to work in that felt most aligned to my values. And that was primarily through some of the non-language elective courses. I took post-war Japan, which is taught by Dr. Wendy Matsumura, and she focused on mutual aid and social movements. And I really enjoyed that course because it focused less on memorizing events and more like understanding the human experience, and how communities supported each other in post-war Japan. And then she had us connect that to similar events in the US or other disasters as well. And at the time, I was a student worker at the financial aid office, and I was also taking global health courses. And so that kind of all just tied together that I was drawn to community supporting roles because I was at a time where I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do post grad, like what field do I exactly apply for. Um, that felt most right for me. And so being able to take that history class was really eye opening, and being able to see and understand things differently from a different lens, learning about communities and how they support each other, again, just kind of aligned with what I wanted to do. So now I get to work in higher education and I support underserved communities, which I felt is an extension of what I felt being in that class.
Thank you. Darian.
So after graduating from UCSD with a Japanese studies major, um, I started off as an English teacher for several years, and during that time, I made an essentially a bucket list of the goals, both professional and personal, that I wanted to achieve during my time in Japan, and it ranged from things such as make Japanese friends to get JLPT, which is the Japanese language proficiency test, get JLPT N2, and climb Mount Fuji, all of which things I have done thus far, continuing to build on that list of personal goals and professional goals, eventually becoming, like I said, a video game translator and localizer, as well as a video game convention interpreter, and also being a tour consultant where I get to share my experiences directly that I've had in Japan with clients, with friends, with family who all visit Japan. And I'd say overall, the experiences that I've had in Japanese studies, learning the language, learning the backgrounds of history, culture, uh, food. I really love Japanese food. and and so much more has helped prepare me for living in Japan as a whole. And I hope that for any prospective Japanese studies uh, major or minoring students, uh, that they'll also think about if you do move to Japan, what kinds of things do you want to do? What kind of goals do you want for yourself? What do you want to get out of the Japanese studies program itself? And how do you want to take that further after graduation? And overall, I'd say that I'm very satisfied with the staff and faculty of the Japanese Studies program at UCSD in helping prepare me to live abroad in Japan.
Thank you. John?
Yeah, so I like when people ask me this one because I'm like one of the folks that just keeps like my Japanese studies in my personal life. I don't use like Japanese language professionally or anything like that. But surprisingly, Japanese studies has helped to like further my goals and get me places professionally more than I would have imagined. Um, Somehow, like it doesn't matter where you are, what setting you're in, but somebody in a group setting always has a connection with Japanese culture. You wouldn't believe like the conferences I've been to, the meetings I've been to with other colleagues at UCSD or other universities. And when I get the opportunity to talk about how I minored in Japanese studies, somebody else always pipes up and is like, oh my gosh, I did too. Or I have interest in Japanese studies also. And it's a really great way to make connections with other folks. Because what that does is essentially it creates, how would you say it, like a more genuine connection. Because one, it's casual, but two, there's this strong shared connection in that professional setting, to where you can build this more genuine connection with professionals. And ones like that will have folks be like a little more likely to help you out. Like if you want to learn more about someone's career, do like an informational interview with them, possibly be able to apply for their company or something. Folks will be a lot more likely to connect with you genuinely and want to help you out in that sense. Um, Also, another thing I want to add on, and something that you said earlier, Annabelle, made me think about this, is the Japanese studies courses, whether you use your Japanese in the future professionally or not, they're going to help you to develop your interpersonal skills because you're going to be in these interactions where you're going to be talking to people that you've never met before. Like in these Japanese studies classes, you're going to get partnered with somebody that you don't know. They're going to say, here's the script, here's what you need to do, practice these sentences, go. And you're just staring at each other. And like Annabelle said, a lot of us might be a little, like might be kind of more shy and stuff. That tends to happen with folks that are into Japanese culture. So that's tough for us. But those classes put us in those situations and it helps you to build those interpersonal skills so to where you feel more confident and comfortable just talking to strangers, talking to people that you're not comfortable with. This is great for interviews. This is good for having good interpersonal savvy professionally, no matter whether you use Japanese in your future profession or not. So it's really great professional development skills, even outside of just that language itself.
Shivam?
Yeah, I had a similar situation as John where I haven't had the opportunity yet to use Japanese professionally. And I've used it personally for friends and traveling, but there have been many times where through networking, it has actually gone in my favor as many of my, I guess, internships and jobs prior to my master's program, I just mentioned that my future aspirations were that I want to do a PhD in Japan, specifically in Okinawa for marine research. And uh, the faculty would either be aware of researchers from Japan, maybe not from Okinawa, but marine researchers from Japan or otherwise. And that would, if anything, would be the hook that would let me get further into the interview process, which was pretty lucky. Um, on top of that, um, I want to, I guess, expand more on my Japanese, and that hopefully I want to, well, let me rephrase this. Even now, even though I'm still in Hawaii, I plan to later apply for a PhD program in Okinawa, but I'm also looking at areas such as like Sendai and in Tokyo as well for marine sciences or environmental sciences. Um, but on the recreational side, I love visiting Japan. I just came back from a trip this winter, just visiting Kobe and Awaji. And so I definitely want to expand my language abilities so that I can visit and communicate and make friends with people in the other areas. My next places on my target list are like Yokohama, Hokkaido, Shikoku, just cities to regions. But so far, that's where I have it in mind.
Thank you. Um, and I know we want to spend the last 30 minutes with Q&A, so I'm gonna jump to the last question that we had for you. We had two, because the next question on our list of things that are topics is how you're still connected to Japanese culture, professionally or personally. And I think most of you have already answered that in the previous topics. if there's anything you want to add, go ahead and do that. But our final question before we move to Q&A is whether you'd have some encouraging message for the current students. And why don't I move to that one, and then we can go into the Q&A, because that's where we can get some very specific things that the folks who are attending would like to hear about. So encouraging message for current students. Annabelle?
I'll try to keep this brief. So I was one person watching an alumni panel when I was still in UCSD. And back then, I had no idea what I wanted to do, except try going to Japan for a little bit because I didn't get study abroad. So don't worry about, don't worry too much about anything. If you are like me and not sure what the heck the future has in store for you. I will say that if anyone is planning on majoring in Japanese studies, to tr probably try to pair it with something else. I'm not trying to say you should double major in something, although you probably have the credits for that. But Japanese plus something will probably get you a long way because people love bilingual, trilingual, polyglots. And that can get you in a lot of places. Because if you just have Japanese and say you go to Japan, okay, you speak Japanese, so does the entire country. What else do you have besides you can speak English? Which is, for the most part, a pretty strong attribute. But can you do some coding? Do you have some other specific knowledge elsewhere that you can add to whatever organization or whatever future career path you want to go to? So that's something that I've seen in current trends recently. And also, even though I say that, don't just discount Japanese as like a useless major or minor or something that you're doing here for fun. Because as a translation master's student, there has also been a major trend recently that universities are shutting down their language programs one by one. So please feel lucky and don't take this opportunity for granted that you have these amazing opportunities here.
Thank you. Shara?
Say don't be afraid to be curious and spontaneous. It will lead you to a lot of life-changing experiences and connections. I wanted to study abroad and I thought I wouldn't because of COVID. But then my friend all of a sudden one day invited me and I had no plans. I didn't know what I was going to do moving forward. But I just decided to submit the application and it turned out to be a really great experience. And when just also don't be intimidated to ask for help since it's office hours, great way to practice and learn more about Japanese, the language, the culture, other topics. They're the greatest support network you'll have moving forward. Recommendation letters, and even like at the Japanese studies program, right? When you're asking for additional help on exploring study abroad program, and then if you do get there, helping you with the paperwork that you need to file. So again, just asking for help, but being curious and making like spontaneous decisions can also help you have those life-changing experiences and connections that will shape you moving forward for the better.
Thank you. Darian?
So I'd say piggybacking off of Shara's response with being spontaneous, when I graduated from UCSD in spring 2018, I had not visited Japan yet I had already accepted an offer in Japan, a job offer in Japan earlier that spring. And later on, I visited Japan for the first time in July 2018 and eventually moved to Tokyo in November 2018. And it was definitely a risk for sure. So, definitely uh, a risk, but definitely a one worthwhile, where I wasn't sure what I would do in Japan uh, after being an English teacher, where I started to take more opportunities, and you find that, like Annabelle said, having Japanese skill and English skill in Japan is a pretty strong set, and having that ability to go around and uh, try out different jobs and professions such as translator, localizer, interpreter can really help to build your skill set while in Japan as well, and even push you further into other fields such as tourism or any STEM field as well. And I think that uh, as an encouraging message to prospective Japanese studies majors and minors, definitely just uh, almost having like a gut instinct and just doing things outside of your comfort zone and just putting yourself out there to experience as much as you can about Japanese culture in general will help you just find a path for you that aligns with your own aspirations and goals, and so that eventually you can put that minor or major to good use and help excel yourself uh, into the real world. 頑張ってね.
Thank you, John.
Yeah, I totally agree with the whole like what you're saying with being spontaneous. I felt like when I came to UCSD as a Japanese studies major, it was very spontaneous. I had another job offer. I had a job offer and the UCSD offer, and I was like, gee, people like some folks earlier have said, like Japanese studies, what do I do with that major? It was a big risk. I thought I could go work or go do this instead. But I took that risk. I wanted to see what it was like, and um, one thing led to another, and here I am as a college senior academic advisor, something I'd never thought I'd be able to get into. And maybe it's not in Japanese studies specifically, but Japanese studies did lead me here. And that's the interesting thing is like these pathways that you take, the stepping stones along them, you never know where they're going to take you. Like you hear Japanese studies majors, so you think, okay, I'm going to end up working in Japan or something. And that's great. Like that's awesome if you want to do something like that. But it could take you to something else that you didn't even realize was down that pathway. So you never know like what's at the end of that. And yeah, I think it's really great to like take those risks and see where they lead you. Um, that actually wasn't going to be my answer to this. I kind of like went off on a little side thing there. My answer was really just going to be don't let the hard times get you down. So I just want to give a plug for that too. Keep engaging outside the classroom. Just like Shara said, office hours are great if you want to get a little extra support. And just like don't be discouraged by the tough times. Keep practicing. If you've got a personal connection to it, it's going to be a lot more helpful for you. And just remember, like, even after you get past your beginning classes, things like having learned the alphabets and kanji, just those little things are something to be proud of. So just don't forget how far you've come as you continue to study. When you do begin to study Japanese, and just, keep congratulating yourself along the way while keeping your sights set on your goals.
Thank you. Siobhan?
I really have only like 2 points. One, in for those who are taking it as a minor, I don't know if anyone's had this anxiety, but when it comes to asking for letters of rec for just applying for, I guess, a position that's related more to your major, you might think, oh, is it really acceptable if I ask my senseis for a letter of rec? Is it okay if I ask these professors instead? When it's not really my, I guess, a professor of my field. Um, Obviously, you should have someone, but I think you should never discount the experiences that you went through in your minor, especially with the Japanese minor, with its how it's built. You either do a heavy focus on language and then non-language, or a heavy focus on non-language and then language. And so you definitely built a lot of experiences and growth that only your senseis are privy to, and therefore they can provide that back to you in the form of a letter of rec. So please don't hesitate. Hopefully the senseis are okay with me telling them this. And then my second note is that the cliche never give up. My dream is still to go to Japan for my PhD. And although it has been 3 years since I graduated, every side detour that I've kind of taken, I've never let that stray from my end goal. And if anything, in terms of distance, I'm much closer now that I'm in Hawaii. So as long as you believe and you keep trying, eventually you'll find the opportunity that will take you to your dreams, no matter what.
you're halfway across the Pacific.
Exactly, just a couple thousand miles and I'm already there.
Thank you. This is the end of the questions we had to organize a panel discussion. Kumi, I'm going to turn it over to you now because you have the questions that people submitted online, I think, right? And we'll start there. And then also for all the rest of you, everybody who's here, if any of you have questions you'd like to have the panel address, put them in the chat because we're also looking at the chat. Yeah. Go ahead, Kumi.
Thank you. I'm just so inspired by all of your stories, and I'm so proud of you because I've known you since you were my students, So thank you so much for the great energy, the vibe. I really, enjoyed listening to your post-graduation experiences. Okay, so we received some questions from the registration form. So I wanted to go over them briefly. And then if you have any additional questions, feel free to put them in the chat, as Professor Turner said, so that we can address them before 4:30. Okay, the first question, which I should answer. The question is, which GE classes would you recommend taking? Would you recommend taking if a student was interested in minoring in Japanese studies? And this is a fantastic question that I would like to answer. And let me share my screen very quickly because we have a helpful web page for this. Whether you're taking your Japanese language classes with us or majoring or minoring in Japanese studies, you should be familiar with this website, japan.ucsd.edu. There are so many different tabs, but for this, go to the language tab and you're going to see this college and department requirements. This was updated. We update this every summer. So if the colleges make any changes, that might be slightly outdated by a few months. So the first option for you is to go to your college advisor, reach out to them using the VAC Virtual Advisor Center, or go to their walk-in hours, but just let them know, hey, I'm thinking about Japanese studies, minoring in Japanese studies. Can I use any of the courses towards my GE or things like that? But you can take a look at the list of GE requirements that accept Japanese studies courses or the language courses. So you can just take a look at that. And again, it's under the language tab. It says college and department requirements. So that's where you find the information. Not just the colleges, but some, other majors and minors, like let's say international studies, linguistics, literature, they have overlapping requirements and you can use the same courses towards both Japanese studies and these. And there are some, restrictions, of course, so please consult the appropriate advisors. Okay, so that was the first question. Second question, what is the most important quality for people who want to find a job in Japan? All right, alumni speakers, anyone? So what is the most important quality for someone who wants to work and live in Japan?
Yeah, and this is the part of the event where we're asking you to just volunteer to respond to questions. You don't have to go around the room in that way we've been doing on the panel. So anybody like to take that one?
Feel free to unmute yourself. Go ahead, Darian.
I'd say the most important quality of people for people who want to find a job in Japan, I'd say, is one, understanding the language and understanding in general the cultural norms and the way of thinking of Japanese people in general. You may not know, or maybe you do, that Japan is a very groupthink based society where rather than an individualistic one, where a lot of the times Japanese people will do things for the betterment of the group or the team or the company rather than for personal gain. There is an expression famously known or infamously known in Japanese, 出る杭が打たれる, which roughly translates to the nail that sticks out will be hammered, which sounds very may sound negative, but it just shows how much Japan uh, cares about maintaining an image of togetherness and teamwork within workplace and within their personal lives as well. And it also depends on what sort of company you want to work for in Japan. Whereas you have the very traditional Japanese companies that are very traditional, or you do have also the foreign-based companies that are in Japan that have a Japanese office, such as the one that I work in, where a lot of the work environment is a bit more flexible, and there is a bit more Western influence in the culture and work environment. So, but in short, really the most important quality for sure is just at least being aware of potential cultural differences and making sure that uh, you try your best to learn as much as you can about Japan before you apply for a job in Japan.
Awesome. Thank you. Go ahead, Annabelle.
I didn't end up staying in Japan, but I highly considered it when I finished my contract last year. I would say not to scare anyone, but don't be afraid of rejection because I think Tokyo might be a little bit better for the international community, but I think 90% of the housing, they will reject you because you don't have a Japanese passport. And don't get discouraged. There are places that will take you, will house you. You just have to keep finding it, keep asking realtors, keep asking those housing companies. And it's not common, but most jobs that will sponsor you to go from America to Japan are probably either English teaching or recruiting. There might be some magical unicorn, we will sponsor you job, but typically jobs that aren't those or university work jobs will want you to already be in Japan for that. So you might need to be prepared to do a little bit of that type of work before going into something you're really passionate about later, unless you're passionate about teaching English or recruiting. Um, but yeah, I would say keep that in mind if you do want to go to Japan to work for some period of time.
Thank you. All right, so let's move on to the next question. This one is for those who are in the US. So if you still live in the US, what have you done or participated in to maintain your Japanese, I think language skills?
I'd say personally, it's just a lot of personal motivation, right? Keeping up with it on your own to practice. Thankfully, like I said, a lot of my long-term friends are from the ones I made in Japanese language courses. So I have two friends who are currently assistant language teachers in Japan, and I have another friend who is studying abroad there again for the year. And there are times where we still connect, and she has me help with her Japanese homework. She's the one teaching me, or I'm the one responding to her, listening to her presentations. So that kind of has helped me keep up with the Japanese learning on outside of class, and even just personally. So just keeping up with it, reconnecting with friends from the program, having those times, having a shared hobby with them is great. So then it can help you keep each other responsible to keep up with Japanese.
Yeah, I
Thank
felt
you.
that same way too. When like you have others in your life that kind of like encourage you to do that. Um, for me, it's a lot of like, getting out the textbooks, dusting those off, like reading them again, practicing my vocab flashcards, things like that. Listening comprehension CDs. Um, but I really like it kind of for me, like I might kind of like put it down for a while and like not come back to it for a little bit. But then something will encourage me to get back into it. Like I'll go to Mitsuwa, one of our local Japanese markets, and I see Tain-san, like the shopkeeper that I talked to in the gift shop, and he knows I used to like, practice Japanese all the time. So he talks to me in Japanese and I'll be like, wait, like I can't understand him this time. And he'll like laugh at me about it. And I'm like, okay, shoot, I better like go back and study up some Japanese some more. And then recently I met a new friend and she studied Japanese, like how that always keeps happening. And that like encouraged me to like do it with her and stuff. So yeah, just like the more like when you have these like opportunities to connect with people more, that'll usually kind of help you to stay into it and hold you accountable to like keep up with it.
Go ahead, Shivan.
Um, to keep up with my ability, I've tried a variety of apps, not Duolingo, but others to try to maintain, I guess, that practice of language. But like everyone has said, just I kind of just talking to actual people is really the biggest like motivator, pusher. Definitely, I've connected with old friends as well as I've connected with new friends. I would say new friends. I say good acquaintances with I think my friends' in-laws who are Japanese. And so whenever I have a conversation with them, like it pushes me definitely to try to improve my Japanese so that I can get my point across without um, sounding like a madman with waving hand signs. So yeah, definitely that's two ways of keeping your Japanese up.
Great, thank you. And even alumni, if you're in town or if you're able to, join our Zoom, events, all the alumni and current students are always welcome. So feel free to follow us on Instagram so that you can stay up to date with our events. Okay, the next question. This is for Darion. How did you become an interpreter at a convention, and how was that experience?
Yes. So about 2.5 years ago, a close friend of mine who works at UCSD uh, found a post on Twitter, and they said that there was a volunteer interpreting opportunity for this convention called Bit Summit in Kyoto. And I hadn't had any experience doing live interpretation up until that point, although I had had a good amount of years of experience doing translation and localization. So I took the chance, signed up for the position, and one of the members of staff for the event, contacted me and said that uh, after looking at my resume and skills with the JLPT N2 and Kanji Kente 5, they offered me an opportunity to work directly with a company the at the event, and so uh, I worked with a gaming publishing company called Yizbrid Games now for about 2.5 years as an interpreter at their Japanese events, whether it be at Kyoto's Bit Summit or Tokyo's Tokyo Game Show. And so getting the chance to talk with media or members of the media or attendees uh, in real time, interpreting and communicating between uh, all of the questions and answers that they had about video games in general. It really gave me a feeling of accomplishment, uh, knowing that all of this time spent learning the language and all of the grit and perseverance and going through all of those plateaus of language learning to help have that aha moment of I can actually do this. I can do live interpretation for fields that I specialize in or am interested in. And I'd say in the beginning, it was very nervous. I was very nervous. It was very nerve wracking. But the more and more you do it, the more and more you get used to it, along the lines of sort of fake it till you make it. And I'd say that it's a very invaluable experience being a live interpreter in Japan. So I
Awesome.
encourage, if you
Yeah.
have the chance, do so.
Thank you. Okay, the next question is, do you know of good companies and websites to look for jobs for foreigners working in Japan or for a Japanese company? And I would like to answer this question, and alumni can jump in if you have any other suggestions. But this is one of the most asked questions, especially from our students' parents, as you can imagine. So let me share my screen because I have a website for that as well. Okay, so back to japan.ucsd.edu, everyone. We have so many cool pages and tabs. Go to resources. When you scroll down a little bit, you're going to find information about the Instagram. We now have student ambassadors and student organization, including JSA that has been mentioned. Here is the job opportunities. These are the ones that our alumni have recommended to me. The past alumni speakers have recommended to me. So I highly recommend checking them out. For teaching and working in Japan, these three are the popular ones. And as you know, JET program, the Consulate General of Japan in Los Angeles, we team up for this annual info session in the fall quarter. So if you have never participated in it, make sure to sign up for it next fall. And these are the recruiters that have been recommended by our alumni speakers. They have positions available in Japan, in the US, with Japanese clients or Japanese companies. So these are the main ones that I usually recommend. In addition, the reason I keep talking about the Instagram account is because we do get job information. For example, the most recent one that we just posted today, this is a company. They've been sending me the info session information for the last several years. So that's pretty strong, right? This is for students with the computer science, computer engineering, and data science background, along with business level Japanese language skills. And as you know, 2/3 of our minors come from STEM fields. So if you are one of those, and oh, I want to work in Japan, I took Japan like 10 and 20, series, and this is perfect, then you have more opportunities. So this is where you look at. Alumni, do you have any other recommendations? And if you know any specific links, please send them my way and I'll add them to the website. Darian, go ahead. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. So one website that I used when looking for jobs in Japan was Daijob, so Daijob, daijob.com. It sounds like the phrase Daijobu. And it was a really very easy to use website where you can find jobs in Japan that in any field, as well as in the search query, you can put in not only Japanese and English as languages that you're able to speak, as well as other languages as well in the field. So, such as going back to Annabelle earlier about having Japan really likes polyglots and people who can speak many languages. I thought that Daijob did a really good way of helping to find opportunities in Japan. It was very daijobu.
Thank you. Can you send me
Kumi,
the link later? Uh-huh.
I wanted to add one thing, which dovetails with something that earlier a couple of the alumni mentioned, going to office hours and asking questions to your faculty. Another way to pursue things is to actually ask any of us who are in the Japanese Studies program to introduce you to alumni that we happen to be keeping up with. Because most of us keep up with people who can't all be here at once in any given alumni event. And this alumni event is only the tip of the iceberg. We know people who have jobs or who have had jobs or internships. For those of you who aren't sure that the next step is a job, but who did internships over the summer, we can introduce you. And like most of the alumni here, the alumni of the Japanese Studies program, whether they were majors or minors, are really happy to talk to current students. They still have this connection. So don't be afraid to ask any of your faculty to say you have an interest in finding something, and let us also give you the names of people that you can connect to. And Kumi has a list of alumni you can contact as well, even after the alumni event is over. So I just wanted to add that in.
Thank you so much. And that is super true. We're here to support you. So we're not just here to help you when you have problems. So remember that we're here to support you all the way. Okay. All right. So the last question, well, it's a combination of two questions, but okay. So the first part, considering a Japanese studies minor, how can it affect the job searching opportunity? And then the second part of the question, it's kind of similar to it, is how have your Japan courses, the Japanese language courses, been helpful to you and your future endeavors? Anyone? John, go ahead first, and then Siobhan, you're next. We'll take turns.
So kind of like what I said earlier, the interaction in your Japanese courses are going to be like really good professional development skills with interpersonal communication, being comfortable, having conversations with people in situations that you're not necessarily comfortable in. Interviews are like that. A lot of professional interactions are like that. So doing a Japanese studies minor can help you gain skills like that, even outside just the language itself. And also it shows that you have like grit in your educational experience as well. UCSD is already a very challenging curriculum, no matter what major you have. We're on the quarter system. People know us as a challenging university. So if you have a minor on top of like the regular requirements that you're expected to have, going above and beyond like that is going to look really good on your resume.
Siobhan?
Yeah, just building off what John said, just yeah, the fact that you have the minor and you have the experience really shows a lot to people who are just looking for, I guess, people who have the, like John put it, the grit, the will, and like the tenacity, especially with Japanese as a language and as a minor. And on top of that, I think for specifically, at least in research, um, this is specific to me, but just especially if you want to do research in Japanese fields, it becomes easier to reach out to faculty who are in collaboration with projects across Japan. Like I know there are many faculty at Scripps who are engaging in projects across in Japan. And so I took advantage of that specifically to be like, hi, I have experience in marine ecology, as well as I have a Japanese minor with the intention of moving forward into studying in Japan. And so framing your experiences like that makes it a lot easier for researchers because they always want people who are, what's the word, not ambidextrous, but more like uh, jack of all trades, where it's like you're able to grow and adapt and you're able to pick up new things. And so, especially if you can handle a new language that works along their uh, alignment of association, makes it very beneficial.
Thank you. And I also want to add one thing, like a lot of times for the minors, a lot of colleges and majors and other minor, you can't overlap the same course. You can't use overlap courses for two different minors, but between a major and a minor, you can overlap up to two upper division courses. And a lot of colleges allow them to use their minor courses that have been already used for their GE requirements too. Of course, there are some exceptions, so be careful and always check with your college advisors. But by having that minor, just like in addition to our amazing alumni speaking, to us today, in the past, we've had a pre-med um, student with a minor in Japanese studies, and he said that when he went to like interviews to, move up in his education, everybody was like, "Oh my goodness." Let me hear about it rather than what he studied in his pre-med major, because that really gives you the flavor and, the unique personality. So just,
I wanted to add one thing to this conversation, which is that I think many of the people who are attending today probably already are on a path to major or minor, but spread the word. Many people who take some of our classes already have most of what's required for the minor and don't really even know it. And so we have had many students, right, Kumi, who suddenly realize they have enough for the minor and they sort of didn't know. And from the standpoint of those of us who write the letters of recommendation, that often goes into the first paragraph. And on your transcript, it's right at the top. So, in terms of this, the utility of these things in your future job searching or graduate applications, um, it's an invitation into a conversation, and it demonstrates, as both Shivang and John have mentioned, it raises it sort of just raises the fact that you're doing more than one thing. And if you're in, doesn't matter which field you're in, Japanese studies is extra, right? It's not social science exactly, it's not exactly humanities, it's not a STEM. It's a little bit of everything, and it's right there as one of the things people, when they're going through 180 applications for three positions, that's going to stand out to them. So but many people actually have what they need already and haven't figured out that they can just declare it with like maybe one more course or something, right? We have this all the time.
yes, 100% true. Just as for the minor, just three language courses, including the ones that you've taken at your community colleges or other,
Yeah.
four-year universities, plus four electives.
Annabelle has her hand up as well. Yes.
Kumi reminded
Go
me
ahead.
of something. So
Yes, please do.
I forgot if this was when I was still a minor or when I become a major, but for anyone in ERC with all those GEs, MMW waives some of those requirements. So if you can do the math and do some reading on some of the requirements, you might be able to just add that on to your diploma or transcript.
Mhm.
Thank you. And always come to me. I can help you. Go ahead. Darian?
Yes, as a as also a former ERC, having MMW definitely did help a lot in getting the minor and then eventually major. So as for me on how the Japanese language courses were helpful to me in future endeavors, I'd say, as I mentioned previously about the JLPT N2 and Kanji Kente 5, as well as leading to a variety of career paths and opportunities in Japan, such as English teacher, interpreter, translator, localizer, and now tour consultant. It the possibilities of using Japanese studies major or minor can be used in more ways than you can possibly think of at the moment. So the flexibility and uniqueness of the Japanese studies major and minor, I feel like, is a really important aspect in helping to pursue any paths, whether it be in the STEM field, such as if you're going for, say, a PhD in marine research, or if you're trying to become, if you're taking a master's in translation, or you want to show friends or family around Japan. It has a very it is very unique, and I'm very thankful that I chose it as my major in UCSD, and thankful to all the faculty and staff in any for the recommendation letters that helped me also get started living and working in Japan. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so that was it. That was the last question, and I don't see any new questions in the chat, and it's already 4:32, so I think it is a good time to finish this alumni event. Professor Turner, would you like to give a closing
Yes,
comment?
yeah, thank you all. This was just a fast, as usual. We loved, Kumi and I love this, and the faculty who attend, and there's many of them here today. We love hearing from all the alumni, and of course, we are very committed to the students we have now in the program, but you don't know how valuable your advice is, and it's so practical and it's so recent, and you've got both that that passion for studying Japan combined now with a lot of pragmatic experience out there in the world. So really, thank you very much, all of you, and thank you all of you who came. And don't think that this is the end of conversations like this. As I said, you can contact Kumi or me or your other faculty, and we can continue to connect you to websites or to people that you can talk with and ask questions to who've been through the program. So thank you, everybody, for sharing your Friday afternoon or morning if you happen to be in Tokyo. Thank you and goodbye, everyone.
Thank you so much. And
Arigatou
alumni
gozaimasu.
speakers, can you stay for another minute if you can? And all the students, thank you so much. Feel free to leave the Zoom meeting, and we'll see you in class or in my office. Thank you.
Arigatou gozaimasu.
You guys did a great job. I mean, really, really wonderful. Yeah.
Okay,
お疲れ様でした。
just 1 second. A few more people. Okay, well, thank you so much again for your time and sharing such inspiring stories. And it was so nice to see all of you. I love seeing my students. When you're near, when you ever come to San Diego and, you see San Diego, please do stop by. But remember, where many of us are hybrid. So I might miss your visit like I did with when Darian came by. But we truly appreciate your participation. And if you have any questions about the honorarium payment, please let me know, but we'll move on with the process. So thank you so much. That's just a small way for us to say thank you.
Yes, thank you. And I feel like every year when we have this, we learn something new. And I think the global economy shifts all the time. So the pathways after UCSD also shift. This event really does help situate things in a very contemporary moment. And I appreciated it. Many of you, not all of you, but I think most of you mentioned the experience of COVID. And I still have students in class talking about how much they missed during COVID. It's not over the consequences. And it was nice to hear you be an example of getting through it and recognizing that it had an impact on you while you were here, because I think it connects you to issues that some students are still concerned about. So thank you
That's
for
so true.
the insights that all of you presented. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
And the recording will be available shortly, but the YouTube usually takes the dean's office about a month or two. So once it's ready, once it's all official, I'll send you the link so you can share it with your family and friends. I want them to be proud of you, supportive of you. So stay tuned and I'll stay in touch with you all. Thank you. And thank you so much to Professor Turner for moderating. It was wonderful. Have a
Thank
great
you,
weekend
Yumi, for
all.
organizing everything
My pleasure. This
as
is my
usual.
favorite.
Yeah,
This
mine
is
too, actually. This is our
yeah,
best event.
this
Yeah.
is my favorite. All right. Thank you and
Thanks for
have a
the
great weekend.
invitation.
Thank you.
Yeah, of
Thank you
Very
so
course.
much.
interesting.
And
Thank
it
you
probably
so
won't
much.
be
Have
the
a great
last
weekend.
invitation.